Welcome again, and in this module we're going to talk about, or section I should say, we're going to be talking about application software and browsers. And the distinction to be made here is to understand that we are now talking about users and the use of application software to help them to do different tasks or to complete the work that they've been given to do. This is what is so useful about the computer is the application software that is available. We've mentioned Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, very familiar to most all of you. But also there is accounting software packages, for example, financial planning packages that have to do with, say, personal financial planning, as well as doing your taxes, preparing your taxes so that you can pay them, and you just plug in the information, you just follow what the software asks you for. It asks you various questions about your earnings for the year and your expenditures for other things, so it helps you to calculate your taxes. There's all kinds of application software for say, fixing photography, taking care of pictures that you've taken. Those are application software as well. Adobe Photoshop is just a marvelous piece of software for doing that with. And you can make maybe a photo that you took, make it look that's already good, and make it look outstanding with Adobe Photoshop. You also have application software that allows you to create newspapers. There's newspaper software out there. That's pretty amazing. And you've got software that will help you to time your stock market transactions, help you to determine the direction of the market because it has built-in trend following measurements of all sorts, moving averages and Bollinger Bands and Fibonacci retracements and all these types of measurements that are available for you to gauge the direction of prices. Really, it's looking at price movement in the stock market. So here you have application software that helps you to do all kinds of things. They have it in science and economics. We have mathematical software for scientists and physicists to use. We have software that helps you to look at the sky, to find where a star is located, for the constellations or any of those kinds of things as well. There's just a myriad of software that's available for purchase at the store, online, to help you with just about anything that you're trying to accomplish. Learning how to play blackjack, and I'm not trying to get you into gambling, but there are all kinds of software that will teach you, train you, help you to develop skills, teach you to use software even. And so you got software that one person can use and many people can use at the same time through the internet. So you can, and that's often called groupware. You'll find that when you read the assignment, that a lot of times I go into detail on what kinds of software you're dealing with and what its real purpose is for, because you not only have like software, you have middleware and you have endware and stuff like that, and that's where the software fits in the scheme of things. Like middleware is software that can translate from one software type application to another software type application, so that can maintain the older software and still allow the newer software to accommodate the older software. So you have to have a middleware piece that will handle translate the information between those two pieces of software. A lot of times that happens with a merger. When companies merge, when they merge, they'll have legacy software that the old company has that they're still using. And instead of getting rid of all of it, they just create middleware so that the old software from this company they just bought, which may or may not be current like what they have, so that they keep that instead of getting rid of it, and they create middleware so that there can be communication between legacy older software and newer, more current, up-to-date software. And this frequently happens when there is a merger or an acquisition of another company. The application software is everywhere. And usually when you buy a PC or you buy a laptop, it usually comes preloaded with some software for you to use. And that makes it useful right away. You can also go out and buy software so that you can meet some other needs that you might be having. I mentioned earlier in one of the other lectures that Linux is out there. That, in a way, is a application software too, because it's very user intensive. You might still, again, want to go get a baby Linux version, a distribution that's easy to use, and usually purchase a distribution right on a magazine stand, like say at a Barnes and Nobles or some store where they have lots of computer magazines that you shop at, and or else you can go to the internet and just download like a version of Linux, like Linux Lite, Lite. It's a very light version of Linux to use on your desktop, and you can experiment with it. The reason why I'm bringing that out to you is because, bringing your attention to this, is because Linux has its own applications that are similar to the applications that you've been working with if you've mainly been in a Windows environment. And one of the primary pieces of application that you use almost all the time is the browser. And you'll find that there are lots of browsers. Even there's not just one browser, there's not just one called the Internet Explorer, which is Windows version of their browser. There's also versions that are open source and not fully proprietary. And Linux has many of those types of versions of open source browsers. So when you look up browsers on the internet, you're going to find that there are hundreds of browsers too. There's not just IE. There's Mozilla Firefox, for example, very strong, versatile, and secure browser that has grown in popularity immensely. So many people are using Mozilla Firefox for their browser. But there's others. There's Opera. There's Netscape. There's open source ones that come with pre-packaged Linux, and you'll find one that you never heard of before. There's also Mac, the one you find on Macs, which is Apple's products. You find on Mac Safari, and Safari is the name of their browser. So you need to understand, though, that browsers are really the weakest piece of software that are classified as application software. Users don't realize how weak a browser is. A browser caches a lot of the information that you, as a user, use inside the browser, like your passwords and information to do with your surfing habits, your history, and so forth, so on the pages that you have visited. So the browser stores all this information, and you may not necessarily know that it's doing that. And this makes it a vulnerable piece of software for hackers to gather information about what you've been doing on the web, and possibly even gathering information about passwords that you've used at particular websites. So in that sense, it's vulnerable, and that's why many people choose to use IE for certain kinds of browsing, certain websites to go to, and they'll use Mozilla Firefox for, say, their banking needs because it's more uh, secure and it protects your information, and you can even have it set up to where it will delete all of your personal information that you put into the browser, so to speak, when you close the browser or when you turn it off. And you can find that that piece of application software can be very helpful to you if you just learn about it and learn about its strengths as well as its weaknesses. You can research these browsers on the web, and you can find out what other users have had, experiences that they have had using these same applications and tools. One thing you have to be careful with is downloading any kind of application software from the web that you have purchased, that you have searched for, and you decide that you want to download it, you want to buy it, you want to download it, you want to put it on your machine. You have to be careful with the fact that the where it comes from, the source, needs to be a safe source, and it needs to have all the markings that it is a legitimate business, that they are actually selling software for the purpose of the stated purpose that it is, and that they are not misusing the opportunity of you downloading this piece of software and then they're also downloading other things with it. So some websites are questionable, and you have to check and make sure, especially when it's open source and a lot of times when it's free software. You need to look at the fact, look at where does it originate with, and what kinds of indications do they give at the website that it is a legitimate business. If anything looks suspicious, you probably shouldn't do it. You probably shouldn't download it. You probably shouldn't buy it. You probably should check it out first. And you can go to the web and check out the software. You can ask, has anyone purchased this software? Does anyone know anything about this company that is not legit? And there, you'll be surprised that there are many, many places on websites, on the web, where you'll find websites which will help you to avoid downloading the wrong material or the wrong software, because while you're downloading it, something else is being downloaded too. Some little piece of code or some cookie or some kind of little program that's going to run in the background, and you've got some kind of additional download that you don't want to be there. So be aware of that when you do purchase application software on the web. There's all kinds that do all kinds of things. Games, there's graphics programs, there's entertainment programs. So there's plenty out there for you to get a hold of and to use and to have on your machine. But at the same token, you have to be a little wary as to its source and where it comes from and what you're actually purchasing. So I invite you to spend time again on the web looking for application software, finding out what's available, what's useful to you in your business or in your work or at the personal level at home or in your creative work maybe. And maybe you're writing a book. There's plenty of software to help writers. Or maybe you're writing a screenplay. There's software to help screenplay writers, screenwriters, I should say. So there's lots there. And you also might want to check out some of the other browsers that are available too. There's not just Internet Explorer, and there's not just Firefox, and there's not just Netscape or Opera or Safari. There are other ones available as well. So I look forward to talking with you again soon. And keep in mind that by reading the material, you're by no means has everything in the material that's about the same subject. So go out and explore and discover what's out there in application software. Thank you very much.